Hello, my name is Matthew Marcoux. I'm the Associate Director of the Public Space Regulation Division of the District Department of Transportation. We're here to talk with you today about public space, and we're going to give you the Public Space 101. The Department of Transportation manages the public right-of-way and public space in the District of Columbia, and the Public Space Regulation Division manages private users of public space. That includes everything from utilities and developers, all the way to people moving into the District of Columbia with mobile storage containers and moving trucks. It's a great idea to move into the District of Columbia. It's the greatest city in the history of ever. With that in mind, we'd like to give you information about what public space is and how it's used in the District of Columbia. Because we regulate private users, that's easy to understand. They're private entities using public space. But what's public space? Public space is defined in the District of Columbia Code, Title 10, Chapter 11, Section 1101.016. Yes, you hired me to be a nerd. Public space is defined as all of the publicly owned land outside the property lines shown in the records of the District of Columbia. Well, that's kind of fancy. So what we'd like to do is break that down for you in more detail using this diagram. Property lines are generally shown using a double dashed line as they are demonstrated here. That double dashed line indicates private property in this direction and private property in this direction. So the public space is all of the publicly owned land between those property lines. Those records are kept by the surveyor of the District of Columbia in the Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs. Public space from property line to property line is called the street. The next time somebody tells you that they saw a car out on the street, tell them that they're wrong. It's the roadway. So the street is the public space from property line to property line. But the street is distributed, the term we use, to define different categories of the street or public space and how they're used. There are three broad categories, and they start from the curb lines, shown in brown in our diagram. The area from one curb line to the other is called the roadway. The roadway is a very functional section of public space. Its purpose is to allow for traffic and transit, for pedestrians, cyclists, motorists, and others. It's also an area where we use traffic signals and other devices to ensure people are using the right-of-way correctly. The roadway, moving in toward the property line, is then distributed into a section called sidewalk. Typically, on both sides of a street, there are sidewalks. Sidewalks might be paved or unpaved, but they are distributed or designated areas that are a bit more functional as well, like the roadway. But these are areas where materials like street trees, traffic signals, street lights, curbside signage, and other functional elements like trash cans, bike racks, and other material are installed. It also includes an area for pedestrian path, the traditional sidewalks that we know. Between the sidewalk, though, and the property line throughout most of the District of Columbia is an area called public parking. The public parking area is an area of public space that's primarily set aside as green space. Most people experience public parking as the area that they think of as their front yards. And while it is an area that they have, as the property owner adjacent, they have an opportunity to use more than others, it's still publicly owned land and part of the public space. The public parking area is typically used for landscaping, lead walks, and other material that's functional for the property to interact and bring people to and from the public space on the sidewalk and the roadway. We appreciate your time. In the next discussion, we'll talk about this red line, which is called the building restriction line. Thank you very much.